Hi, welcome to Starz Recapped. Today I'm going to explain an American horror comedy movie called Abigail, which was released in the year 2024, directed by Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. Late at night, Abigail is rehearsing ballet in a vacant theater. Meanwhile, a gang of criminals is preparing to strike. The hacker disables all the security cameras in Abigail's home, and the sniper climbs onto the rooftop. When Abigail exits the theater, her chauffeur picks her up in the car, unaware that the criminals have attached a tracker underneath it. As soon as the vehicle starts moving, so do the kidnappers. The hacker unlocks the house's doors, and 3 of the criminals slip into Abigail's bedroom to hide behind the furniture. The woman realizes they're about to abduct a child and objects, as she usually doesn't get involved with kids, but the others tell her to go along with it. Soon, Abigail arrives home and lies down on the bed, giving the criminals an opportunity to strike. One man attempts to pin her down, but Abigail stabs his hand with a pencil. Another man takes over, covering her mouth and restraining her, while the first one tries to hit her. However, the woman stops him from harming a child. She then injects Abigail with a sedative to knock her out. The other half of the crew is stationed outside and alerts those inside that a vehicle is approaching. While the sniper keeps an eye on the incoming car, the trio quickly stuffs Abigail into a bag and sneaks out through a window. As they make their way across the garden and regroup with the sniper, the alarms go off, forcing them to flee. Luckily, the last 2 criminals arrive just in time to pick them up, and they escape without trouble. During the drive, they check Abigail's pulse to ensure she's okay and blindfold her. As they near a traffic stop, the hacker instructs the driver to take an alternate route, but the driver abruptly swerves and hides the van behind a large truck. Eventually, they reach their destination, an old, deserted mansion on the outskirts of the city. There, they rendezvous with Lambert, the man who hired them. After handcuffing Abigail to a bed, Lambert reminds the team of the rules. They must not reveal any real names or personal histories, and they should avoid getting too familiar with one another. It's a 24-hour job, so they have to watch over Abigail until her wealthy father pays the $50 million. Lambert doesn't disclose the father's identity, but he does confiscate everyone's phones to prevent tracking. Before departing, Lambert assigns each team member a code name inspired by the Rat Pack. Afterward, the crew begins indulging in the alcohol stocked in the house. Joey refuses to share her sweets with Dean, who acts clever and tries to deduce everyone's background, but fails. When Joey mocks him, the others place bets to see if she can do better. By analyzing their body language, attire, and behavior, she accurately guesses them all. Frank was once a detective. Peter is a slow-witted mob enforcer. The hacker Sammy comes from a wealthy family and is in it for amusement. Rickles is a former Marine sniper, and Dean is a reckless driver with sociopathic tendencies. In response, Frank deduces that Joey is a recovering addict. Then Joey checks on Abigail, who complains that the blindfold is too tight. Joey covers her face and removes the blindfold. She also notices that the handcuffs are hurting her, so she fastens them in front instead. Since Abigail is crying, Joey reassures her that they won't harm her and that they only want the money. In response, Abigail makes her swear with a pinky promise. Joey reveals that she has a son, and in return, Abigail tells her they've made a mistake because her father doesn't care about her. As Joey is about to leave, Abigail apologizes for what's about to happen to her. Concerned, Joey hurries back to the group and tells Frank that Abigail's father might be a dangerous man. Frank dismisses it, saying Abigail is just trying to make Joey feel guilty. However, once everyone is distracted, he sneaks off to check on the girl himself. He's stunned to see her without the blindfold and immediately shields his face while aiming his gun at her until she swears she didn't see him. Frank pressures her until she reveals her father's name, Christophe Lazar. Panicked, Frank rushes back to the group and announces that he's leaving. The others demand an explanation, and Frank reveals that the girl is the daughter of Christophe Lazar, a ruthless and powerful crime lord. Joey and Rickles also recognize the name and share Frank's concern. A heated debate breaks out over what to do next. Eventually, they decide to stay and take the money, believing they can use it to escape and start fresh somewhere far away. They agree to secure the area and keep all the doors locked. Later, Joey explores the house after hearing a noise, only to find that it's just an open window. As she pushes it open further to stop the rattling, she notices an old statue of a father holding his child. She then accidentally bumps into Rickles, who unsuccessfully tries to flirt with her. He also confesses that he doesn't trust the others, and they agree to watch each other's backs. Meanwhile, Sammy stumbles upon a room with a TV but is suddenly startled by a presence behind her. It turns out to be Dean playing a prank. He has the audacity to flirt with Sammy, who furiously kicks him out. Dean then finds Peter fast asleep and doodles an inappropriate image on his face. Wandering around the house, he enters a dimly lit corridor filled with old photographs, including one of a girl who closely resembles Abigail. Next, he heads to the basement kitchen, where a door creaks open by itself. Confused, he steps inside and is startled by a rat. As he turns to leave, an invisible force suddenly grabs his legs and yanks him backward. Sammy hears his shrieking and heads to the basement, where she finds Dean seated at the table. When she attempts to approach him, his head drops, and Sammy yells before vomiting. Soon, the others arrive in the basement as well, and they agree Sammy doesn't have the capability to do that. In fact, it reminds them of the tales about Lazar's assassin known as Valdez. Several years ago, 3 top members of Lazar's gang were apprehended by the FBI. The night before their trial, they were kept secluded on the top floor of a hotel with agents guarding every entrance. The next morning, the FBI burst in and found their corpses with their heads severed and no organs. There was no way in or out of the room except for the door on the 23rd floor. Growing uneasy, they decide to check on the girl and find her safe in the room. Rickles remains terrified of Valdez and wants to flee, but when he pulls open the front door, they're stunned to find another barred gate. Peter attempts to shove it open to no success, and this activates a security system that seals all the windows, meaning the group is now trapped inside. Joey deduces this is a setup, and Rickles rushes to check on his firearm, only to realize it's missing. Joey hurries to Abigail and demands if she's seen anyone besides her and Frank, but Abigail insists she hasn't. She also reveals that Frank threatened to hurt her, that he claimed to work for her father, and that his actual name was Valdez. Later, Joey meets with Rickles, and they both exchange what they know, concluding it doesn't add up. They decide to search for an escape, but as Joey tries to exit the room, she hears a sound. Rickles is standing rather stiffly, so she moves closer to check on him and is horrified to find that he's been brutally wounded. His lifeless body collapses in her arms, and she lays him down before dashing downstairs. A livid Joey points her gun at Frank, accusing him of being Valdez and murdering Rickles. Frank draws his gun as well and claims Joey is letting Abigail deceive her. He orders Peter to handle Abigail, so Peter enters the room to eliminate her. Before he can fire, Joey arrives and swiftly disarms him. Sammy and Frank also enter, and a heated argument breaks out. Meanwhile, Abigail effortlessly removes the handcuffs and rises, executing a ballet movement to reveal her true identity. She's actually a vampire. Abigail lunges at Peter and is about to sink her teeth into him, but Frank shoots her down. To everyone's astonishment, Abigail merely sits up as the wound mends itself. Joey fires at her too, but it's evident that bullets are ineffective, so they flee and barricade the door. The group deliberates on what to do as they realize Abigail was Valdez all along. All the doors are fitted with magnetically sealed locks and shutters 2 inches thick, making them unbreakable, and Sammy lacks the tools to bypass them. Everyone is tense, and when Peter asks them to slow down, Frank seizes him by the throat, threatening him into silence. In the end, Frank and Joey grab pool cues to craft steaks while Sammy searches for garlic in the kitchen. Joey refuses to assist because she believes killing Abigail would only infuriate her father. Once they're prepared, the trio storms into Abigail's room only to discover it empty. Suddenly, they hear music, so they enter another room, where they spot Abigail dancing with Dean's corpse. At first, she acts like an innocent girl, but when Sammy strikes, Abigail leaps at her and sniffs the garlic, which has no effect. Frank is knocked away when he tries to intervene, but Peter manages to lift her. However, Abigail easily hurls him to the floor and snatches the cross from his chain, pressing it against his chest to make him bleed, confirming that crosses don't weaken her either. Next, Frank attempts to stab her from behind, yet Abigail swiftly disarms him and impales his leg instead. Admitting defeat, the trio retreats downstairs, where Joey tends to their wounds. She reminds them that the injection worked when they abducted Abigail, and they still have an extra dose. They agree to split up, and whoever locates the girl first must alert Joey via their earpieces so she can catch her off guard with the syringe. The group begins scouring the house, and Sammy enters a grimy hallway, where she is startled by a swarm of bats. This causes her to tumble into a pool, and she screams upon realizing it's filled with decaying corpses. Even worse, she must crawl over them to escape. Meanwhile, Abigail ambushes Peter, who dashes away in terror and locks the door behind him. However, Abigail smashes through the door and continues pursuing him while moving with ballet-like agility. Peter sprints as fast as he can when, suddenly, Frank opens a door and strikes him, causing him to topple over the railing. Then Abigail goes after Frank, shoving him down the stairs before pinning him. Joey seizes the moment to attempt injecting her, but Abigail smacks her hand, sending the syringe flying behind a locked gate. Sammy grabs Abigail and yanks her away, prompting the child to retaliate by biting her arm. Next, Abigail clutches Frank's leg and begins levitating, only for Peter to suddenly tackle her, making her release Frank. Peter restrains Abigail while Joey scrambles to recover the syringe, swiftly injecting the sedative into her. The child utters venomous threats and hurls insults at Joey before losing consciousness. Sammy panics and worries if she'll transform due to the bite. Moments later, Abigail regains consciousness, locked inside an elevator. Joey tells her that if she reveals how to escape, they'll release her. Instead, Abigail admits she orchestrated everything and that Lambert works for her. She even knows all their true identities and histories. Sammy launched her career by siphoning money from her wealthy parents' bank account and eventually targeted a major figure. Peter acted as enforcement for a crime syndicate and betrayed his team. Frank infiltrated a notorious crime family while serving as a detective and ended up relishing the criminal lifestyle. Joey was a former army medic who was dismissed for developing a drug addiction, abandoning her son with his irresponsible father to become an underground doctor for highly dubious individuals. One day, she unintentionally killed a gang member while trying to extract a bullet. It turns out everyone here had crossed Lazar or his syndicate in some manner, and Joey accuses Abigail of murdering her father's foes merely to earn his affection. Abigail didn't eliminate them immediately upon their arrival because she enjoys toying with her prey. She states that if they set her free, she'll allow 2 of them to survive. Frank proposes killing her, so a furious Abigail alters the offer to saving only the one who releases her. Peter swiftly draws his gun, and Joey follows suit as she and Frank insist that Abigail is deceiving them. Since Peter attempts to free her anyway, Joey shoots him. Then the group departs, except for Frank, who volunteers to stand guard. After everyone leaves, Frank tells her that he'll let her go if she reveals how to escape the house. Abigail explains that he needs to pull Agatha Christie's book in the library to unlock a hidden passage. Frank thanks her but refuses to release her, so Abigail effortlessly breaks the door, shoving him aside as she twirls toward him. At that moment, Joey arrives and smashes wooden planks off a window, allowing sunlight to pour in. The light immediately scorches Abigail's hand, and she dashes into the shadows to regenerate while Joey and Frank flee. The entire group reaches the library and remains within the sunlight streaming through the high window Joey opened earlier. Nothing happens to Sammy, so she feels relieved, believing she won't transform. Frank pulls the book Abigail mentioned, but nothing occurs because she lied as well. While he throws a fit, Joey attempts to break down the wall but fails. She's out of candy and is growing extremely anxious. Joey confesses to Sammy that she left her son to get sober, and her plan was to use the money from this job to return to him and start fresh as a reset. Hearing this word sparks an idea in Sammy. If they can locate the power source, she can short-circuit the locks. The team splits into 2 groups and searches the house. Suddenly, Abigail plays music again and takes control of Sammy due to the bite. She swiftly turns into a vampire and lunges at Peter, sinking her teeth into his neck. Abigail speaks through Sammy as she continues feeding and ultimately kills him. Then, Abigail amuses herself by making Sammy dance like her. Eventually, Joey and Frank arrive, prompting Sammy to keep her face hidden. However, the others grow suspicious, so Sammy reveals her transformation, and the duo immediately bolts. Sammy pursues them, and they reach the library, where Abigail uses Sammy's voice to explain that she despises that room because it's where her father turned her. Joey grabs a tray and reflects the sunlight onto Sammy, causing her body to explode. At that instant, a hidden door opens, and although Joey and Frank suspect it's a trap, they choose to proceed anyway. After navigating a corridor, they discover the mansion's control room and Lambert, who is also a vampire. Lambert seizes Joey by the throat as he unveils everything. Abigail turned him 2 years ago after discovering that he assisted Frank in infiltrating the gang. She also threatened his family, and now all he does is lure all her father's enemies here for her amusement. He's already alerted Lazar about the situation, and he's en route to the mansion. Lambert wants to eliminate both Abigail and her father, so he proposes turning Frank into a vampire if he agrees to assist. Frank accepts, so Lambert knocks Joey unconscious and bites Frank. Next, Lambert forces Frank to drink his blood, and Joey regains consciousness just in time to witness Frank's agonizing transformation into a vampire. Afterward, Lambert commands Frank to feed on Joey, but instead, Frank drives a stake into him, causing Lambert to disintegrate. At that moment, Abigail arrives and attempts to attack, but Frank overpowers her and drinks her blood. Joey seizes the opportunity to reach the control panel and disables the security system. She also retrieves her phone. However, when she runs down the hidden corridor, the exit is locked. As Frank finishes draining Abigail and drops her lifeless body, Joey calls her son and leaves an emotional message on his voicemail. Frank finds her and instantly shoves her back into the library, where he begins hurling her against the furniture. Joey attempts to defend herself, but her blows have no effect on a vampire. Then he grabs her by the throat and slams her down, but Abigail catches her just in time. Abigail admits she's too weak to defeat him alone and pleads with Joey to help her destroy Frank, vowing to let her go so she can reunite with her son. Frank moves toward them, and the girls join forces to fight him, but no matter how hard they struggle, he's evidently stronger than both of them combined. After knocking Abigail down, he drives the stake into Joey's shoulder, pinning her against a pillar. Then he turns back to battle Abigail, biting her once more as she subtly raises her pinky to remind Joey of their deal. Once Abigail is down, Frank pulls Joey off the stake and sinks his teeth into her neck before tossing her onto the floor. When she comes to, Frank uses his vampire abilities to compel her to pick up the stake and attack Abigail. However, Joey is only pretending, and at the last second, she spins around and shoves Frank, giving Abigail the chance to pounce on him. She battles him again, explaining that vampire abilities take time to fully develop, so he can't control or transform Joey just yet. While they're distracted, Joey grabs the stake and pulls Frank down, then she and Abigail join forces to impale him, causing him to explode. Afterward, Joey fears she might turn as well, but Abigail assures her that won't happen since Frank is dead. As promised, Abigail sets Joey free and urges her to find her son. Suddenly, someone grabs Joey's shoulder. It's Abigail's father, Lazar, who claims he has gone by many names over the years. He intends to kill Joey, but Abigail steps in to defend her, arguing that Joey saved her life and was there for her when he wasn't. Lazar kisses Joey's hand as a sign of gratitude and allows her to leave. Joey rushes back to the van and realizes she still has one lollipop left, so she unwraps it and enjoys it while driving away. That's my explanation for the movie, Abigail. So, what do you guys think about the movie? Write in the comment, turn on the notification and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.